Hari Om, Namaste. Welcome you all to day 3 of Life and Management. We just saw a beautiful set of clippings, right? These were all shot at the very beautiful Chinmaya Tarangini, which is there at Uttandi. If you haven't been there till now, you should make a visit. And we all see sunrise, sunset, colors of the sky, the beach, a rocking chair, so many things around us. But what are those thoughts that are created in us, which arise in us? Those beautiful insights which we can see from everything around us. That was given to us by Swami Mitrananda. So today we are here for yet another set of beautiful, meaningful insights of life which he is going to take us through. Before that, let us invoke Bhagwan through his various many names. I invite Yamini Srinivasan, alumni of Chinmaya Vidyalaya Annanagar, currently Czech, to do the prayer. Over to you, Yamini.
Hari Om. Kandena Govindana, Kandena Govindana, Krishnana Kandena Govindana, Krishnana Kandena Govindana, Keshavanarayana Shri Krishnana, Keshavanarayana Shri Krishnana, Vasudeva Achyutanandana, Vasudeva Achyutanandana, Sasiranamata Shri Rishikeshana, Sasiranamata Shri Rishikeshana, Sesha Sayanama Sesha Sayanama Sesha Sayanama Vasudeva Sutana Kandena Govindana, Krishnana Kandena Govindana, Govindana, Govindana.
Thank you, Yamini. Thank you, Yamini. We now go straight into the Sabha Parva of the Mahabharata. As the Pandavas built the beautiful Indraprastha, and all the revered sages, learned people came to bless the capital city and the Pandavas, the people they ruled, there came great Rishi Narada. He guided Yudhishthira about principles in management and how beautifully and effectively to rule. And these principles apply even today. So, first day we saw how to seek the small joys of life without hurting anybody, look for the beautiful moments. And then, yesterday, another set of beautiful learnings. The main point being how to handle ethical dilemmas and the rules of trading off without trading off dharma and keeping dharma as our core. So, today we go into the text again for a new set of learnings. Over to Swamiji.
समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम्. My salutations to everybody, continuing from where we stopped yesterday. Am I audible loud enough? Thank you. The last thing Narad was checking with Yudhishthir was, he asked him, O unblemished one, O Yudhishthir, do you use the 6 royal qualities to judge the 7 means? Are you aware of all this? Is it in place? Are you taking care of this? So what are the 7 means a person can approach us? Samadhana, Bheda, Danda, Maya, Upeksha, and Indrajal. Nicely talking, giving incentives, making strict, tough discussions, inciting fear if required. then taking action, actually punishment. Even if that time somebody doesn't give in, probably going into tricks, using deceit, tricks, etc., Maya, and then neglect the person to turn around, or finally use spells, Indrajal magic, black magic, and playing with negative energies, hypnotism, or trying to get the bhuta preta into action. People do all this. So how desperate they must be. These are the different methods in which one approaches. And what are the 6 qualities by which you have to be aware, so that even if someone is using this means on you, you would know to defend yourself. The first one in Narad, in the discussion of the 6, is art of negotiation. Talk nicely. Speak well. Be firm in your negotiation. Let us be pleasant. You see, when there is some dispute happening in the United Nations, when they sit and a particular country has to come back and refute what somebody else has said, you see how they word, the choice of language, apt words. One extra word will not be there. Using the language, using the firm tone, and yet sounding polite. This way, art of negotiation is understanding, and we negotiate with the person as best as we can. Now, let's keep this in mind, not only between 2 nations, not between 2 business deals, even with our day-to-day interaction with people. Let's keep this in mind, that the way in which we speak must be very pleasant for others to hear, and the way in which you sign off your conversation should be something which the person looks forward to talk to you again next time. Just make this one small change. When we converse with someone, and when you're going to sign off your conversation, say, okay, let's see when we meet again or something. The way in which you sign off, that person should look forward to meet you again. If we can do this, we become very, very pleasant with people. Our relationship with people would be so nice, and we would be happy transacting with people. So the first one is art of negotiation. Second one is providing the means, the resources for various challenges which come up. We should be in a position to, the king, the leader, should be in a position to provide the resources. Unexpected challenges will come. Anticipating these things, one must be prepared. What happens if plan A, plan B, plan C, some 1 or 2 defense mechanisms they should keep in, substitute plans must be in place. So unexpected things can come. All of a sudden, when something comes, which plan will you put in place? Do you have a backup? All this one should know, and that's what here Narad says. Are you very clear about providing the means? You should stay that resourceful person. Then the third point, this is where we stopped yesterday, saying intelligence in dealing with the enemy. With your opponent, when we have to deal with the opponent, we need all the skills in place. We do not know how strong the enemy is. So the first and foremost is to be well informed about the opponent, about your competitor, about the enemy king or the enemy nation. One must be very well informed. Those who are well informed, they definitely understands the enemy, and their actions would be apt in dealing the tough situations. You understand the CBI, the FBI, KGB, RAW, these are not new. They are new names now. This has been ancient. Many old kings had their own intelligence network. Not at Vyasa's time, not at Krishna's time, even at Ramayana time. When Rama was there, at that time this was there. there is a similar, like Narad and Yudhishthir conversation, there is a similar conversation between Ram and Bharat. And Valmiki writes it down so beautifully. The kind of discussion Ram and Bharat had. Again, absolute lessons on governance. Please remember, Valmiki Ramayana is 2000 years before Mahabharata. So if we go back, it should be 7000 BCE. At that time, Valmiki has noted these things down. And this kind of a thing is there. How do you understand your enemy fully? What are the things you have to do? And first is to keep oneself fully well informed. And Ram there checks with Bharat, do you have spies in every important department? Have you put spy in every important department of governance? And then he says, keep one spy whose job is only to spy the spies. Ram is telling this to Bharat. In every department, you should have a spy. Your intelligence should be there. They should be there to report to you what is happening. And the people in that department should not know who is this person reporting. So the king is updated. That is the network. That is the intelligence. That is the spy work. So he says, you make sure that in every important department, there is a spy who will come to you and report to you. And they are well-trained spies. And then he goes further saying, keep one spy. His job is only to follow the spies. He has to spy the spy. So this is a very ancient department. Almost every king had this. And it is there in the books like Mahabharata and Ramayana. So here, the third point here is intelligence in dealing with the enemy. How well are you informed about your enemy? You must be well informed. When you are well informed about your enemy, then it becomes easy for you to understand their plans, how they proceed. Every action would be known. Every country goes on investing in this intelligence because you do not know where the threat comes. Early information is always great advantage. That's why people have the network everywhere, so that people can keep you informed. And so here he says, is that in place? Intelligence in dealing with the enemy, is that in place? Have you taken care of that? Because that's a very, very important department. Then he says, very important lesson, he says, memory. Meaning, the fourth point here is memory. How strong, how good is your memory? Do you remember things? The past, good and the bad experiences of the past. Are they there? Have you documented it? So that after you also somebody can see and learn from it. Because our experience of the past is very important for us to move ahead in the future. Past we have to drop, but the wisdom of the past is required. That wisdom can guide us well in the present, through which we can make a beautiful future. So mistakes of the past, achievements, good achievements of the past, brilliance of the past, setbacks of the past, we must be aware so that we don't get back to that kind of a setback once again. Or when we have to take up something, the brilliant achievement in the past can help us to improve our standard further. So here he says, please remember, this is very important. Are you completely aware of the importance of memory, storing information, documenting it? And in India, this is something which we lack. And mainly so in our, like the history what we had, the documented history is not institutionalized. If someone does a nice project, let us say, with that person, entire skill, experience, everything is gone. How that person did was never documented. This documentation is very important. Yudhishthir, Narad is asking, have you done this? Have you documented your achievements? Have you documented your setbacks so that it is there in your memory? We can go back to it anytime. And that can be a great guidance. And if suppose someone has hurt you in the past and that person is once again coming, and in the past you have hurt and you have forgiven that person, but that person is taking advantage of your forgiveness, of your goodness, and is coming back once again to attack you, or once again to trouble you, once again to take advantage of you, how do you handle? We should know. We should learn from the past. We should understand that. Oh yes, this is possible. So please understand, the lessons from the past, good or bad, would be useful, so beautiful to build the future. Otherwise, we can misunderstand completely. And we may adopt one fragment of Dharma and forget and say, this is Dharma, this is what I believe. Forgiveness is a great quality. To which extent to forgive? That is dharmic understanding. Forgiveness is a lovely quality. It is a ornament of a strong person. Shama virasya bhushanaha. But to which extent I should forgive? I keep forgiving always? Or at some point I have to take action? What happens if I go on forgiving? The other person doesn't change. Maybe sometimes you have to take action. What is the ideal response? This we have to analyze. For this, Dharma helps us. Do I make somebody always take me for a ride, create a kind of a karma again and again for that person by taking advantage of me, or I stop it? Which is good? So we should understand what kind of forgiveness we have to adopt. You understand? To which extent? So the wisdom of the past is very important. Document what people do to you. Document what happens in your institution. Document it well, what happens in the nation. So those lessons are there and we can learn. So Narad questions that, saying, oh, I hope these things are done, because from it we can learn so much. And the next point 5 here is Dharma Shastra. Is the members in your court and you yourself are well established in Shastra of Dharma, that you have understood Dharma correctly. Dharma is a huge subject. When you want to see the word meaning of Dharma, it has many, many meanings. One is called duty. One is called religion. One is called values. Another meaning is righteousness. Another meaning is going back to your own source. Dharma has many, many meanings. It's a very deep word. So Dharma Shastra is a very important science, and one must be well versed in it, so that the confusions regarding Dharma doesn't occur once we are well versed. And even if it occurs, like we discussed other day, we have to meet a wise person and clarify that. Established in Dharma Shastra. We have the saying, isn't it? Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Very often we hear this line being quoted. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Ahimsa, non-violence or non-injuriousness, is the highest dharma. Paramo dharmaha. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Ahimsa is seen as the highest dharma. Why? Why is ahimsa the highest dharma? Because the basic right for you and me is, when we live here, we have a right to live, and that cannot be taken. That is the first right. A human is born, that person has to live. That right cannot be taken away. Therefore, ahimsa paramo dharmaha. But this is only one half of the line. The second half of the line is dharma hinsa tataivacha. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha. Dharma hinsa tataivacha. That means, so too the violence in the service of dharma. If I say ahimsa paramo dharmaha and I'm quiet and people take advantage, let us say, of me, or my country adopts this policy of not injuring anybody, and you are being attacked continuously by different countries and you don't protect yourself. That ahimsa is not correct. If that is ahimsa, then Ram would not have fought Ravan. Krishna would not have fought, would not have supported Arjuna or Yudhishthir to fight Duryodhana and Shakuni. So we need to understand dharma correctly. Sometimes one value, overemphasis is given, and it is to that extent being stubborn with it, it could be misused elsewhere. So Dharma Shastra is another science one should know well. If we know Dharma Shastra, we will not make mistakes. We will understand well. Ahimsa paramo dharmaha, dharma himsa tathaivacha, complete understanding of it. And the last point he says here is Rajniti, the science of politics, statesmanship, diplomacy. Hope all these are in place with you, Yudhishthir. Only when all this is there, these are the 6 means by which you will be well informed. In any kind of negotiation, you would know to take charge of it and see that you are not offended. So politics is not a new science, it is a very ancient science. And in our universities, Mahavishwavidyalaya, all this was taught. Chanakya's book 2000 years ago speaks about Rajniti and Arthashastra, taught in the University of Takshashila. It was subject that time. So this is the 6 points one should know to deal with the 7. So you understand that very famous, often people say, things went for 6s and 7s. I don't know from where it came, 6s and 7s, but there is definitely one 6 here and a 7 there. If they do, this is the way in which we can handle ourselves well, so that we are also dharmic and protecting yourself. This is the best way to live. What Gurudev used to say as aggressive goodness. You are dharmic, doing good, not harming anybody, but at the same time, you don't allow, however clever, cunning a person could be, to take advantage of you. Shakuni was clever, indeed, isn't it? Cunning, isn't it? Very cunning. And every time he used to come up with some plan, some strategy, and that was countered. So to counter Shakuni, you have to understand the science of cunningness. Otherwise, we cannot counter Shakuni. How will we counter Shakuni? So if Shakuni could move one way, Krishna was well versed. He anticipated, this is the route he is going to take. Now this is what I should keep in defense. For every canaille move Shakuni attempted, Krishna kept his defense in place. Be it war, be it even while negotiating. So if there was very clever and cunning person, the opponent should understand that they can go to this level of cleverness and cunningness, and you also must be well equipped. The only difference is when you are equipped with knowledge of cunningness, let us say, understanding how cunning your opponent can be, you will never misuse it. You will use it only keeping dharma in mind. This is the best way to teach. And Krishna taught this to Arjuna. Imagine in a war where Krishna tells, you have to fight this war, but you should not hate those people. Shoot without hatred. Can you imagine this kind of a war happening? That you are there, Arjuna, shoot him. But Adveshta Sarva Bhutana. You cannot hate anybody, incapable of hating. But this war, you have to perform your duty, you have to kill them, kill them. But that has to come because of dharma, righteousness. This is the right thing to do and I'm doing. Not because I hate them and therefore I'm doing. This clarity should be there. So we should understand warfare, we should understand all the tricks of the enemy, but we should never misuse them. but we should keep them to defend ourselves. This is the best way of living. Dharmic way of living is this. If we can manage our life this way, that is the best way to live. Otherwise, one understanding, a bit of one small pinhole understanding of dharma, we will swear by it and fail throughout. So Dharma Shastra, Rajniti, politics, in these one should be well versed. Having seen this much, we go to the next question. Now, Narad Rishi is asking, do you test your strengths and weaknesses as well as your enemy's strengths and weaknesses in the 14 ways? Do you test yourself? How strong are you? Do you test your strength and weakness? Imagine 5000 BCE. This is being discussed. Do you test your strength, your weaknesses, SWOT analysis? Do you test your strength and weaknesses? Do you test your enemy's strength and weaknesses? Are you well informed? If there are neighboring countries, you must have a department which can keep you well informed. What are the zones in which you should be well informed? Okay, you must be well informed about your enemy. What are the topics in which you must be well informed? Departments, you should be well informed. Here he says, these are the 14 departments. One should be well informed about you as well as your enemy. Now, please understand, some of it is directly applicable to us in our day-to-day living. Some of it are meant for those who are leaders, leading a different role. A knowledge is so comprehensive that it also helps the individual, it also helps the leader, and it helps us to keep a check. So here he says, what are the 14 ways, 14 departments you must know? Your strength and your opponent's strength. First one he says is forts. Fort. In those days it was all forts. Today it could be various other important secured zones in your country where the defense weapons are being made, where the different missiles are being stored, various things, secretive forts. So are you keeping check? Do you know the strength of your forts? How strong is your defense? How strong is your fort? How strong is the enemy's fort? How many forts do you have? And how many forts the enemy has? How many forts your neighboring kingdoms have? You must have people in place who will report to you continuously. A new kingdom is happening here. A new fort is being built here. This is what they're doing. That information you should get. Were not the Americans trying to find out when we were going on nuclear weapon? When India was going on nuclear power, did not the Americans try to find out what India was doing? Because they said we should not go nuclear power. It's their privilege. We should not go. Kalam did not listen to it. Vajpayee did not listen to it. Before that, Indira Gandhi did not listen to it. They said, we will go nuclear. But no, you should not. And they were having all eyes. And they had their own satellite. The job of the satellite is to govern India from sky. Watch every movement of India and keep reporting. So the Americans get informed. This is happening, that is happening. So when it came this time, Kalam took a stand. He said, we'll do it. And we know the timing when the satellite comes. We know this is the time the satellite will pass. At that time, we will not do anything. And when we know the satellite has crossed a particular zone, we'll start our work. Now, they have implanted a satellite to govern us. And we understood the satellite tracking. And we know how the satellite goes. When it crosses that zone, we will start the work. And they started the nuclear test in a place called Pokhran in Rajasthan in a desert. Nobody would try to start a nuclear test in a desert. You'll try it in a forest where the thick camouflage of trees are there, and so many things are there. People can't see satellite images. In a desert, you don't do it. But these guys, Kalam and the team, did it in the desert. And nobody could guess that this was going on in the desert. And they all dressed like an army, and they fought. It was like a regiment army going. Can you imagine the Indian scientist making nuclear weapon for India wearing army dress? And the local people also did not know that this is scientists, not army. And they were wearing army dress, going here, there, and they did. And not many people knew. Very, very few people, a handful of people in the government and the scientists knew. Not even the scientist families knew that India was going nuclear. Do you understand how well guarded that secret was? Because everybody would like to assess your strength. Only when we tested it correctly, and once we did that correctly, then we said. And these scientists also, and by the way, they had a very, very different kind of wit. They tested this in Rajasthan in wells, so creating deep wells, they tested this nuclear weapon. And one was called, mission called Taj Mahal. And the whole mission, they named it Smoking Joe and all that. And the third well, they tested the nuclear, they called it White House. The code name for that test, that well, was named White House in Rajasthan, and in Pokhran they did. You have to, I mean, everybody will be aware, very conscious to know you. You must have people placed everywhere to have the right information so that one understands the opponent. That's why many countries were trying to understand what is India's strength. The moment we achieved, is it not true that most advanced countries said India is now a potential superpower? It's only when that nuclear test, when we passed through, they knew. Now we have that power, strength. That's why Kalam said strength respects strength. So we should know. So you should know your strength, and you should know your opponent's strength. Where? In forts. Whatever is guarding your armor. Fort. How many forts you have? Olden days, forts were the thing. Chariots. Today you can turn it into Rafale, MiG, F-16, BrahMos, chariots. Those days it was chariots. You should know how many chariots you have, which are in good condition. What is the chariot strength of the enemy? The opponent, one should know. Forts, chariots, elephants, cavalry, your army, and the horses, and your neighboring kingdoms, their army strength. What is it? If they're suddenly increasing an army, let us say they went extra in 2 battalions of cavalry, you should know here is a team which could be more stronger. One should know. So he says cavalry. Foot soldiers, forts, chariots, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers. One should know. Who are the foot soldiers? What is the number of the army? Do they have more of ammunitions, less of population, more of population, less of ammunition? One should know. You should know your strength, and these are the departments. One should know the opponent's strength. Foot soldiers. Officers, civil officers, like IAS cadres, the people who look after various departments. You should know how loyal, how efficient they are in your team, and who are the people there, because they have all the information. The officers have all the information. That's where you need to know and find out. So that shows the strength of them. So he says, foot soldiers, civil officers. And then another thing he says is, at this time of war or something, shelter homes are very important. Are you very clear about it? That shows planning. All of a sudden an attack happens, there should be shelter homes by which the injured people or the families which are displaced can be brought in and taken care. Your shelter homes. Are they in good condition? Check. And keep checking if your enemy is increasing his shelter homes. If suddenly your enemy is increasing his shelter home, a thought of war is running in his head. That's why he's establishing them. Check that out. Shelter homes. Food supply. Forts, chariots, elephants, cavalry, foot soldiers, officers, shelter homes, food supply. 8th point, food supply. What is your food chain? How does it come? Suddenly in war, what happens? First thing is that in the olden days, the larger army would cover a particular fort, and they'll wait, saying, because you can't break the fort. It was too hard those days to break the fort. And when you try to climb the fort from top, they can kill you, because the one living in the fort, generally the fort is on top of a hill, has a bigger advantage on seeing and attacking. So the most of them would come and wait, cut the food supply. So they know at some stage the godown which was storing food will go less and less. So you must see how the food supply is continued. Keep an eye on it. How strong is your food supply? And how many food supplies or granaries your enemy has? That also one should know. And then he says, army commutation. Auditing your army. See, generally audit we do is a very, very superficial audit. Money received, money spent, money balanced. This is what does generally an audit. Running in loss, gain, basic. We should know to audit very differently. This, let us say, for example, what is good audit? Overall audit. You did a particular event. What was the benefit of it financially? What is the benefit of it in visibility? This event, how many people noticed it? How many people understood? How many people felt interested to join? How many people came forward to join? And how many members who were working for you got empowered, experienced through this and learned something more? So your team is a little more empowered for a next event. They have learned. All this we have to audit. Now imagine in a war, army audit, how much it would take. How strong is your weapons? How skillful are you? What are the new weapons they are learning? Are the counter ready for it? Can we intercept them? All this, and continuously checking and keeping the person on a drill. Army audit, computation, he says. That is very, very important. And then he speaks about religious treaties. In force, you should bring it into action. You know something? The wars we had in India, in Bharat, before outsiders invaded India, we also had wars. The Mauryas fought with Guptas, the Guptas fought with Chalukyas, the Cheras fought with Pandyas, the Pandyas fought with Pallavas. The war happened within us. But these wars which happened within us had a very different war code. This is very important. Please understand, this shows the civilization. We had war codes. And some of the war rules which we had is, when a war happens, children, women, priests, elderly, like the priests, the temple rituals, etc. they take, thinkers and elderly people should not be harmed. Places of worship should not be harmed. Places where food is stored should not be harmed. There are different rules given. And both the wars will happen with that code of conduct. We fought wars within us that way. That's why the temples were intact. War happens, nobody will go destroy the other person's temple, nor their family, nor their women, nor their children. Women had that respect. In a war, you should not abuse a woman. This was our code of conduct. We were not aware when we were invaded, we were not aware of this at all. That this policy is not applicable to an invader. So we were taken by shock. When we invaded, first thing they broke our temples, captured our women, took the women into the harem. A very different culture it was altogether. We were not aware, we were not ready for it. Because we thought we will fight wars in a civilized manner. a agreement, a disagreement. We could not come into something. War is inevitable. Okay, now war is inevitable. These are the rules in which we'll fight the war. And we fought wars that way in the past. We, the Hindus, were not aware of uncivilized war. We were not aware, we were not prepared. Because that was not even in our thinking, that somebody can do this to us. We could not go that far, that humanity would stoop down. We didn't expect that way, and it happened. And once they attacked, we did not know what to do, and we were not used to this kind of war. Go and capture harmless women, go and break temples, kill the priest, kill the elders, kill everybody, absolute destruction, or capture them and make them as laborers. There was no dignity. For that, we were not prepared, and we paid a price for it. The price we paid is till date, isn't it? So war audit is very important. And here what he says is the religious treaties by force. If there is a war happening, these are the agreements. These things we will not do. Because the culture and religion are more important. It will take us further up in life. It is a means to evolve the human, and that cannot be damaged. These discussions are there. So even if a king goes to the neighboring country and wins it over, these places he will not damage. And you should know that these are the places there. Their temples are this, their places of worship, their cattle is this, their food grains is this, and all that should not be harmed. Keep it that way. So he says you should know about the religious treaties which you do, which you keep in place, and treasury. Be fully aware of the treasure. What is your treasury and what is the strength, the treasury of the opponent? Accounts of the state, small departments, where the major money is being spent, where wealth is gone, be aware of this. And the last 2 points, Narad is telling Yudhishthir, you must be aware of wine shops in your country. And you should know how many wine shops are there in the opponent. Can you believe this? Because that's where a person goes for a relief for different reasons. You should know, because those are the areas lot of time information gets leaked. A man is drunk, loses control, blabbers. Till date, that has been one of the areas of strong working of the intelligence. So he says you should know what are the alcohol centers you have, where the people go for this kind of pleasure, and the opponent. What are the wine shops? Because mostly people around that, who revolve around that, are people who will somehow or other blurt the information. So one must be aware of it. And the secret enemies, the last point, Narad says of the 14, the secret enemies. You should know what are the secret enemies. That is the job of the intelligence. They'll get to know before something happens. So you should know about it. Is this in place? Do you test your strengths and weaknesses of you and your enemy in these 14 departments? Can you imagine the kind of conversation they had? And this is being sensitive, being extra alert, and having these informations this way. There is a very strange kind of an incident in Ramayana. When Bhagwan Ram returns from Lanka, and he brings the Vanara Sena with him, Sita, everybody, all have come back, and they are at the outskirts of Ayodhya, and they stay in Bharadwaja Rishi's ashram. They land there first. Pushpaka Viman lands first in Bharadwaja ashram, and they stay there. From there, they have to go. Ram decided, now that we stay here, let's send word, inform Bharat and the team, that we are coming to Ayodhya. Our 14 years are over. So they are first halt on their return journey was in Bharatvaja Rishi Ashram. Now there, look at Ram. Ram calls Hanuman. He says, Hanuman, come with me. I need to talk to you. And he takes him alone. Takes him quietly, far away from the group, and says, listen, I'm going to ask you something. This will be absolutely confidential. Only you and me. This will be confidential. And I'm sure you can do this effectively. You will report back to me perfectly. I trust, because that's the trust Hanuman, that's the trust Rama had on Hanuman's efficiency. Hanuman's communication skills, Hanuman's observation, Hanuman's tight-lipped, gagged. He won't open his mouth if he doesn't want to. He could keep. So he takes him out and tells him, go to Ayodhya. You will meet Bharat there, my brother. Tell him I am coming. I have already come to Bharadvaja ashram and I will be coming. Just tell him. Now when you tell him, look at this. This is Valmiki's Ramayana. I'm quoting you. Quoting from Valmiki's Ramayana, referring. When you're saying this to Bharat, that my arrival, when you're announcing it to him, watch his facial reaction and body language keenly. Keep a close watch. Watch it keenly. And see how he responds. Note what comes out from the eyes, what comes out from the mouth, all have to match. His joy, was it there in the eyes when he heard this? Was the tone also so happy? Is the words spontaneous joy on hearing my return? Or he was not happy? Because Ram, practical man. If someone gets attached to a seat of power for 14 years, they may not be interested to let it go. Because the power addiction is that. So there could be a possibility that Bharat could be attached to the throne. Could be. He's just making sure. Because 14 years have gone and he has not met his brother all the 14 years. So there is a 14 long years gap. So he says, go check. Why? If Bharat shows even a slight, even the color in the face changes, slightly unhappy that Ram is coming back, then Ram said, in that case, we need not go to Ayodhya. Let him have the kingdom, will go away. Now, this was his love for his brother. But he's checking that with this most confident man he had. He didn't give this job to Lakshman. He did not give this job to anybody else. He called Hanuman and he said, Hanuman, go check. Everybody makes a check and keep. How it is, how the people are. The kings even more so. So Hanuman goes to inform Bharat that Ram has arrived. And when he goes there, he was shocked because Bharat did not want to live. He said, the time of Ram's return is over. I will not live anymore. I am going to jump because my contract ends. I can't take this any further. This belongs to Ram. If Ram has not come, something wrong with him. I do not want to live here where Ram is harmed. I want to die. And he has set a fire ready to jump. Hanuman reported, Ramchandraji came. But this was it. Even on a brother, he kept a check, saying, just check that out. Or for his own good. If Bharat is by chance attached to it, we'll give it up. Let him have the kingdom. It's a toy after all. He's playing with it. Let him play. I don't need it. But Bharat, on the other hand, was most eager for Ram's return. It is not that Ramchandraji did not know Bharat, but 14 long years, anything can happen. Minds can change. So go just check. He wanted to check, and check by checking his eyes, check by how he responds with his tone. This checking is what Rama did using Hanuman. When we go into the world that way, and that is in Ramayan's time, and Narad comes here and checks the same thing. He says, Hey, Yudhishthir, you need to keep all these 14 in place. Then you will know your strength and the opponent's strength will be understood. Having seen this, we go to the next question. Now he says here, another question, just basically asking, are you taking care of this? Are you checking this? O Supreme One among victorious, after examining yourself and your enemies, after examining yourself and your enemies, checking both, and your enemies, do you follow the 8 duties before concluding an alliance? He's asking, there are 8 areas you must take care before coming into an alliance. You have understood your strength, you have understood your opponent. Sometimes there may be an alliance is needed. Maybe we have to get together or work together or take over that kingdom, or the kingdom surrenders. Alliance can happen in different ways. If anything like that happens, there are 8 areas you should take care. So the question is so beautiful. O Supreme among victorious one, that is what you are, Yudhishthir. After examining yourself and your enemies, do you follow the 8 duties before concluding an alliance? What are those 8 duties? He says, first one is acceptance. That now we are taking this alliance, we have to accept, because the alliance has come for a particular goal, for a particular thing. Now we have to accept the other person. Acceptance. For whatever that person may be. Maybe certain things are not agreeable, etc. But because we have come into an alliance, that has to be accepted. Giving gifts. Share. Give gifts. Because 2 nations are coming together, 2 kingdoms are coming together, exchange gifts, because giving is a sign of expression of love. Giving shows that you care for the other person. Share gifts, give gifts. And use of the work, skill, force. Now that 2 nations have come together, or even you have conquered, or someone has surrendered to you in a war, let us say, now use that talent well. Whatever talent, workforce they have, the skills they have, use it well for well-being of everybody. 4th one, prohibition. Be clear what are the things in this kingdom has to be prohibited. These are allowed, these are not allowed. There's no negotiation on it. It's a rule. This is prohibited. Now that we have come into an alliance, that means this things is no longer possible. These things are prohibited in this kingdom. It could be anything based on what they are doing. Certain things which have to be prohibited, on which one should be very clear. Speech. What you should speak till the alliance sets down well, till both becomes better in bonding. What should be spoken, what should not be spoken. Not everything you speak. And that way when you speak, only heat generates, hatred generates, and dislike becomes more between the subjects. So you have to keep, because a king always conquers. Somebody or other comes, submits, alliance, you built emperors that way. When you do these things are important. What is to be spoken, what we should not talk, till things become go. So there you can't say freedom of speech, I want to speak everything. No, it's not done that way. These are the topics we will not touch, because there is a time space. That time span, these things have to settle. Speech. Conduct, how we conduct. 2 cultures coming together. The behavior could be different. So there should be very clear do's and don'ts, how we conduct. Before going into an alliance, all this have to be accepted, discussed, made clear. How each one of us will conduct. 2 different cultures, 2 different kingdoms, 2 different languages, all are coming together. 2 different food habits coming together. Which part, what we will we do? How you conduct yourself. Punishment. What kind of punishments we can give? Some countries can have different punishments. Now that you are Bringing two countries together, two parties are coming into alliance. If something goes wrong, what kind of punishments we agree? Discuss these things in detail, what kind of punishments we should agree. These are the points we should agree. And purification. What are the things we should purify ourselves? Prayachitta. Okay, mistakes happened, this happened. We clear all these things. What are the purification methods? Prayachitta. These points one should discuss. Acceptance, giving gifts, use of workforce, skill, etc. Things that needs to be prohibited. Control on speech, what to be uttered, what not to be uttered, by the statesmen, by the leaders, and the common man. Because two different people together has to come, then speech is very important. Conduct, behavior. How do we behave with each other? Based on what? Punishment. If things go wrong, what are the things we need to keep in place as punishment? And purification. These are the 8 points. Are you aware of these 8 departments before you get into an alliance? Oh, Yudhishthir, please tell me. This is what Narad speaks. Like this, we have seen 7, 8, 9 points so far. 9 points we have seen. Like this, there are 100 plus. So we will stop here and take up the next set of discussions in the year 2021, January. So we will follow this for a couple of months more, because there are very beautiful points in it. And on 25th of this month is Geeta Jayanti. That is also Tapovan Jayanti for us. And it is also Vaikuntha Ekadasi. Now imagine that day, Vaikuntha Ekadasi, Tapovan Jayanti, Geeta Jayanti. Now different Hindu organizations have come together. This is something really beautiful, because the Hindu organizations working together is important. It is important because that will show collective strength. And it is really nice that various Hindu organizations have come together. And we have done this once in 2017. We are doing it again now. What is it? On 25th December, 6 p.m., we will chant Bhagavad Gita, chapter 12 and chapter 15. 20 verses, both the chapters. Chapter 12 has 20 verses. Chapter 15 has 20 verses. So that becomes 2020. Towards the end of this year, 2020, we will chant 2020 verses at 6 p.m. And then after chanting, we'll do Gita Arati. The whole thing will be 20 minutes. 6 p.m. India time when we do. Various Hindu organizations are getting involved. And what we will do is, in your home, in a temple nearby, or in the ashram where you stay, or the organizations where you belong, wherever you are, at 6 p.m. we will chant. Now please remember, 6 p.m. Indian Standard Time. Corresponding to that movement, we will announce times for different countries. For example, 6 p.m. India time is 8:30 Singapore, 4:30 UAE. You understand? 7:30 Jakarta, Indonesia. So we choose time, Indian time, 6 p.m., whatever is the corresponding time. Our members around the world, the Hindu devotees belonging to various Hindu organizations, to various Hindu temples, all will do this chanting. 6 to 6:20, 6:25, this will get over. What we are trying to do is, we Hindus are celebrating Geeta Jayanti with a common understanding that all of us will chant at that particular point. That means in the globe, at that moment, we are invoking Bhagavad Gita. Like yesterday I was talking to you, karma has become quite popular nowadays in the world. Dharma is also becoming popular. Yoga has already become popular. Buddhism, meditation, various things have become very, very popular. The next thing which should become popular is the Gita. World should take to Bhagavad Gita. For that, we must be proud. Imagine such a beautiful text. And Geeta Jayanti is such a beautiful festival. It is still not, in a Hindu majority India, is not a gazetted holiday. Do you understand? It has to be a great celebration. It should be like how Diwali is a holiday. Makar Shankranti is a holiday. Ugadi is a holiday. Shivratri, many states give holiday. Geeta Jayanti should get there. That shows our love for this knowledge, the Gita. So we will be celebrating this on 25th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Please join, pass on this information. Of course, various organizations, their heads will also be writing to their followers. And we will also send the recorded versions of the Gita, 12th chapter and the 15th chapter, and also the text. So you can keep the text, listen to it, and chant wherever you can, in a temple, at home, wherever, together or individually. But let's celebrate and get this popular again and again. For in a couple of years, it should be an international Geeta Jayanti celebration we should have. Nice talking to you. I'm handing over to Radha.
Thank you, Swamiji. That was another burst of information all over and a lot of notes to recap upon. So, all of you in the audience, do you also feel like me? Because at the end of Swamiji's talk, every time, I always feel I haven't gotten enough. I want more. I want more. So, if you feel the same, we have uploaded a lot of Swamiji's talks on the Chinmaya Mission Chennai YouTube channel. You can go there and watch it for yourselves. Right from 18 seconds of wisdom to an hour of talk. Likewise, a lot has been uploaded just for you. You can catch him there. And of course, we will keep you informed about the next season of the same life and management. So thank you all for joining us for all 3 days. Hari Om. Do join us for Geeta Jayanti. Do not forget. And further information we will keep giving you. Thank you. Over to Swamiji for the Shanti Pata.
Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. See you next year.
Hari Om. Thank you, everybody.